What up? What up? What up? Welcome to the idea of where we explore the noise, the nuance, and everything in between. I am Mike. It's like Bossy's not here. It's just me. And this is a place where I messed up my whole flow. This is a place where noise, nuance, and conversation collide. That's wrong. But let's get into it. So this is like a bonus episode, a solo joint that I wanted to been meaning to record for a week and a half now. And so I think I might have said it on the show for the folks that listen first and foremost. If you're listening to this and you're new, this is your first time, or you've been listening the whole time for a year and a half, straight up, like for real, spread the word, let people know. If you fuck with it. Like if you don't tell nobody. But if you follow us and you've been following us and you like what we do, even if you don't agree with every point that we make, let people know, spread the word. The reason why Bossy and I continue to do this, continue to host the show, is because we really feel like our voice is unique. We feel that our voices together are important as two elder millennials, not millennial. I'm not a millennial. I am a zennial. We are in our own box. But as young Gen Xers, elder zennials, we really feel like our perspective is unique and that we have something to share that adds to this podcasting space, or else we wouldn't do it. Like if we felt like we were repeating the same things or following the same lane that everybody else is doing, we based on who we are as individuals, we're like, nah, that's cool. But we really want to add to this space. So all that to say, let folks know if you like it, comment on it, share it. Like that's how before I was a podcaster. I'm like, why they always say that? Like, why they always like comment, share, like? But now I get it because we want people to hear. We want people to know what we have going on over here. So it's the idea of we are the idea pod on everything that we on all of the our social media platforms. But I have been mentioning over the past few weeks that been preparing for a long time for July 10th, 11th, and 12th. July 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's been on my calendar for a minute. July 10th and 11th have been on my calendar for the better of 6 to 8 months. Ooh, I was going to see J. Cole in Charlotte on July 10th, Friday, July 10th. Shortly thereafter, I learned that we would be my wife, myself, and some folks I used to work with, my sister-in-law, some folks I used to work with, went to see Chris Brown and Usher in DC at Northwest Stadium. So knew those concerts were coming up. The whole time I'm thinking like, yo, it's gonna be crazy because J. Cole was in Charlotte, Chris Brown and Usher were in DC, we're in Maryland. So I was like, man, I'm gonna have to go and drive back. Cole concert finished on Friday. I'm gonna have to drive home that night, then drive up to DC the next day, then drive back to North Carolina. It's gonna be crazy, but I was like, I got it. So maneuvering through life as I do, and what do you know? Jay-Z enters the chat and he's saying that he is going to have 3 shows at Yankee Stadium, right? And they were gonna be culminating shows celebrating the 30th anniversary of Reasonable Doubt and the 25th anniversary of The Blueprint. Probably 2 of my favorite rap albums of all time. So those 2 dates come out, and those dates are Friday and Saturday. So I'm like, well, already had the Cole tickets, already had, Chris Brown and Usher, and I was like, I mean, this probably happened in like March, February timeframe where he released these dates, maybe even after that. And I was like, I don't know, it's New York. I could, sell the cold tickets, or I could put those to the side and go up on Friday. And I was like, I was pump faking. I was like, I was hesitating on it, and I didn't really understand. I was like, it's all cool. But then a week later, Hope comes back and says, you know what? I'm gonna have a third show for you, Mike. You know what I mean? He was like, Jay was like, I'm gonna have this show for Mike Andrews on Sunday in Yankee Stadium called Extra Innings. And I'm like, "Okay, home," you know what I'm saying? Like, what you trying to do? Like, come on, son. So, he announced the show, Extra Innings. No one knows what it is, but, it kinda had that feel like Friday special, Saturday special, Sunday's gonna be something different, right? And I pump faked on those. The initial resale tickets were ridiculous, like $600, $700, and I was like, "It's Sunday," and mind you, I had a work trip the next day, starting on Monday. I had a work trip, and I've known this. I had this work trip. So I was like, Friday, Cole, Saturday, Chris Brown, Sunday, Jay, and then Monday, I'm in Chicago for work for 3 days. Like, that sounds crazy. What am I, 20? What am I, 30? 35? No, I'm almost 50. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna chill, chill, chill. Time goes by. I'm getting excited for Cole, getting excited for Chris Brown, Usher. I'm like, all right, boom. We lit. It's gonna be concert weekend. And then wifey was like, "Yo, for Father's Day, what if you went to New York to see Hov on Sunday in Yankee Stadium?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm not. Thank you. God bless." But I was like, "It's too much. It's too much movement. It's me solo dolo. I'm gonna have to fly to New York because I can't because I gotta go to Chicago for work, and then I'm gonna have to find a hotel. Too much money. I'm good. I'm good. Like I'll watch it online. Like I'm cool." So literally about 2 weeks before the show, I was like, "Let me go see, but let me go see what these tickets talking about. Let me take a peek and see what these tickets talking about." And tickets came down. Tickets was like three. I was like, three to see Hov in Yankee Stadium? I gotta do that. So I bought the tickets. I used my miles points to fly to New York. I used my hotel points to stay. So it was literally just the cost of the tickets. I had to do it. So I went. I went to 3 shows, y'all. I am 49 years old. Don't let the locks fool you. Don't let the hairline fool you. You know what I'm saying? I am 49 years old, and I went to see a hip hop concert on Friday, J. Cole. I went to see an R&B show on Saturday, Chris Brown and Usher, and I went to see Hov on Sunday in New York City at Yankee Stadium. And I'm sure by now, right? I'm sure by now, everybody, if you're online on any level, you've heard about these shows. Like you've heard and seen images from the Cole show. You've seen images from Chris and Breezy and or Chris and Usher, and you've seen at nauseum, damn near the entire all 3 shows of Jay-Z, including the monumental Extra Innings show. And I'm going to talk about it too. And I'm going to give you my recap, but I'm not going to. I don't want to give you the same recap that everyone's giving. I don't want to be like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and guess what? Beyonce came out. Oh my God, And I don't want to give that perspective, but I wanted to give the perspective of, a middle-aged man, a zennial, a young Gen Xer zennial going to 3 concerts, 3 nights in a row, from the perspective of like the culture, like the hip hop R&B culture, from the Black culture lens, from just artistry, from the visuals, from all the things that Bossy and I talk about and we've been talking about for the past year and a half. It's like it came into full view for me in this process of going to 3 concerts in 3 days. So I'm not gonna go in order necessarily. I'm not gonna like, oh, and then I saw Cole, and then I just kind of want to talk about high level how it made me feel. I don't know, like how like what this experience was like. And I'm just gonna say off the top that when when you share space with people, like going to concerts, I think that as I'm getting older, I feel like we talked about this in the episode that came out today. Everything I say, like, these days is, like, as I get older. As I'm getting older, I feel that, you know what I'm saying? This whole idea of aging is tripping me out a little bit because I am getting constant reminders, constant feedback, constant reinforcement about my age and a lot of assumptions about what I should and what I shouldn't be doing. You right? Right? Like based on, how old I am or how old people perceive me to be. And when you go to shows, when you go to, especially depending upon the artist, it's like putting up a mirror and keeping it with you the entire experience because it's in full display, like who the audience is, who this show is designed for, like what audience is this show for. And I feel like I went to 3 shows with 3 very different audiences, and maybe only one of them for my demographic, Hov's show. The Jay-Z show was my demo, was for people like me, for people that grew up like I grew up, that had experiences like I had and have. And that's important in the concert going process. So I'm going to come back to that. The concert going process and going to any event really is going to put a mirror up and remind you constantly of how old you are, how old you feel, how old you think you are, how old other people think you are, and it's really quite fascinating to me. I think that's a fascinating thing. So at the Cole show, I feel like I was in the demo, but slightly maybe over the edge of the demo, but not really. I mean, I feel like, you know, I went to the Cole show with 3 of my homeboys, right? 3 of my frat brothers. They're all 10 years younger than me, like almost like exactly 10 years older than me. I'm 40, I'm 49. They're all just turning 40, 39, just turning 40. So, kind of the same age group, and my whole thing now is like when people that are in their 30s turn 40, even though I'm 49, I'll be like, oh, we in our 40s now. Like we're all the same age. Like if you just turned 40, I'm 49. We all the same age. Uh, so like generally the same age group, but like we all have very similar tastes in music for the most part. And they all the folks I went with, all my boys there, are, big Cole fans and just music fans. And that's what Cole's show was to me. Like Cole's show was a quintessential hip hop show for people that love rap. Man, listen, Cole, I know I pump faked on this a couple times on this show. I know I've kind of waffled back and forth about Cole. And I never waffled on like how dope he is. I never waffled on like, him being a dope MC, but just his impact, all decisions, all the shit that don't matter, right? But Cole is a fucking monster MC. Cole is the quintessential MC. And I can't help but think about J. Cole in these two, I don't know, these two boxes. Cole came into the game with the stamp from Jay. And towards the beginning, middle, the middle of his career, he kind of lyrically, like music wise, kind of was leaning more towards Nas in terms of consciousness, in terms of just his presence in the game, I guess, as he became more self aware. He had the whole song Let Nas Down, and kinda like that was his whole vibe that he was giving. And more so than the big 3, more so than any other of the big 3, Cole is the quintessential rapper. I'm not talking about artistry, I'm not talking about entertainer, I'm just talking about rapper. Cole, I feel like I deserve I Cole deserves an apology from me. Because as good as he raps and as pure and as honest as his image appears to be, I don't know this man. All of that deserves a little bit more respect in hip hop. All the things that Bossy and I have been talking about, which is why I still don't understand how Bossy doesn't fuck with Cole like that. But all the things that Bossy and I have been talking about, all the things that me and my boys talk about, my boy SK, my boy Dwayne, uh, that we've been having hip hop conversations literally for 20, 30 years. Cole is the embodiment of what we wanted, of what we said we wanted. All us old heads, all us like unks and them, all of us would be like, "Oh, hip hop is not all the young kids, Soldier Boy. What is NBA Young Boy doing? no, no, little Uzi Vert, right? All that shit that we be talking about about the young kids. Cole represents everything we wanted, and for some reason, he just don't ever come across that mountaintop as the king of the big three. But if we're talking about rapping, if we're even talking about emceeing, and I want to make watching Cole's show, he is the king of the young MC, like the youngish, purebred master of ceremony. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that needs to be acknowledged. Seeing his show as I get older, right? When I see something that stops me in my tracks, or when I see something that's like, whoa, that either takes my breath away, or that I'm witnessing something that is really, really special, right? Like if I'm witnessing something like, say, yo, that I've never seen that before, or damn, like that deserves to be captured in a picture, or right. So like when that happens in my life currently, I literally, it stops me and I'll be like, yo, that's good. Like, that's good. Like that, like when I'm in church and the preacher says something that's like, not just like, oh, the Bible said, but like if he says something that like connects some, spots in my brain and like brings light to a thought that I've been thinking but couldn't verbalize, and they're able to do it in like really cool and interesting ways, like that shit excites me. Like I'll be like, yo, that nigga's good. I'll be to the preacher like, that nigga's good. There were at least 5 times during Cole's show where I was like, this guy, he that like literally there were times where I was just watching him, like I was proud of him. Like I was proud of this man that I don't even know. And I'm like, for the folks that's listening, I'm pointing at the screen, looking very, proud. I'm like, that Cole boy, he the one. He's the one. He's the one. Um, and there were several times that I was like, I'm there are probably like in my life, there's like 5 artists that I don't critique. Maybe 5 artists where like whatever they give me, I'm good. Like if even if I don't like it sonically, it's like if you gave it to me, I'm good. I think it's Kanye, I think it's Jay, I think it's Jill Scott. Um, I think I say Kanye, Jay, Jill. I want to say maybe Jasmine Sullivan. Like whatever you give me, I'm good. I didn't like hotels at first, and I kept on listening. I'm like, oh yeah, she's good. I'm good. She's added to that category. I think I'm adding J. Cole to that category, bro. His talent is too immense for me to be like, I don't like how he did with that production. So what? You could make a beat on a tin can, nigga. I don't care. He's on that list. He's on that list. Phenomenal show, y'all. Like, so much respect for Cole. He starts the show. I'm sure you've seen the clips. He started the show and he was sitting in the audience rapping his the intro to, I think, the 39 album, I think, from the double disc. And he's sitting with the people, simple, everybody, kind of surrounding, the folks that were sitting in that section, kind of surrounding him. And he's just sitting there rapping. Bow, worth like he just like the way he was just sitting and spitting. At opening the show, I was like, that nigga's good. That I just kept on saying, wow. Because it was just one of those moments where he's in that sweet spot of artistry where he could do that. And it's not a distraction from his art. I can't imagine Drake sitting in the crowd like that. Not because he's not a dope artist, but just like that doesn't fit his aesthetic. I can't imagine Kendrick doing that. You know what I'm saying? Without making it like an artistic statement, without like, I feel like he would have like some paint on his face and, dressed in a tomahawk. I don't know. Like he would just do some extra artsy with it. And the fact of like seeing Cole with the hoodie up, you know what I'm saying? Leaned over with the blue light just flowing like that. It just captured what a dope artist he is, and that was just the whole show. The whole show was an ode to North Carolina. Not a whole lot of bells and whistles. He had a nice backdrop, which, if you're from North Carolina, they have like the market. I think it's called Market Square or Market Center at in Fayetteville. It's downtown. It's always on the news, like the backdrop of the news, and I think it has like a pretty rich history in North Carolina. I think I read at one point it was like the where they sold slaves, and it became like a center point in the community and all this stuff. So it used to have like one of the racism. Remember when they cared about race in this country and they put like fight racism on the street in big letters? It was like one of those places. And that was the backdrop of Cole's show. Just a dope show. He took time throughout the concert to talk about his album, talk about the creative process. Just super, super dope, and much respect to Cole. He's added on my list of I'm not critiquing his albums anymore. He's just too talented, and he's just such a good rapper. He's a good rapper, yo. Like I and I don't want to simplify his show, but it was just such a pure experience, a pure hip hop rap experience without a lot of frills, without a lot of hits. I mean, that's the thing. He didn't even play all his radio hits. He didn't even like really go into the radio bag. And he has those hits, but I would say if he played 25 songs, maybe 10 were radio hits, 10 were deep cuts off of his album, a few were like from his first mixtape. He was like, "Yo, I never thought I would do this song in person. I had never even heard the song before." I'm like, "Bro, what is this? I don't even know what this is, but it's dope." You know what I'm saying? You go to a show and someone's giving you music that they've never done, like, "Oh, I got this new song." You're like, "Okay, great." Thumbs up. Cole was doing songs I had never heard before. Like, "Yo, this is dope. Why don't I know this?" You know what I'm saying? So definitely big shout out to Cole. A plus show. So that was Friday. So the show ends at 11:30, 12 o'clock. I drive back to, where I live in North Carolina, 2.5 hours. I get home at 2:30, get some rest. I'm already packed for my next two trips, right? Because I'm going to DC the next day. Then I'm going to New York the next day, and then I'm going to Chicago for 3 days for work. So my bags are super packed. So get up, get to DC, go see. Next show is Chris Brown and Usher. Now, remember, I said like concerts have a way of reinforcing and reminding you your age and just like your presence in general. And had the box experience. So I don't think I said at the Cole show we were in a box, you know what I'm saying, a little suite area, super dope. That's the way I'm trying to concert from here on out. I ain't trying to go elbow to elbow with niggas in the ground section. Like no, I'm not also trying to be in the binoculars section either, unless it's Hov. We'll talk about that in a second. And so Chris Brown, we had a box at Northwest Stadium, super dope experience, good people. It was one of my former coworkers, Tiffany, good friend of mine, and then someone that worked in the same place we used to work. Long story. Her name was Candace. Shout out Candace for getting us these box tickets, box seats. Chris Brown and Usher. My first takeaway is that I do not like going to concerts at Northwest Stadium. I don't the venue, just getting in and out is a little hectic. Getting in and out is hectic. I find that I've been to 3 shows there, and the acoustics aren't what they should be, I don't think. I don't think something about it is just off from a concert perspective. But with Chris and Usher, the mics were a little, you know what I'm saying? They weren't as crisp and clear as they should be. And Chris and Usher, it felt like a show I shouldn't have been at, honestly, if I'm being honest. And I'm not even on some sexist stuff or misogyny, nothing like that. Like, ooh, I'm gay if I go to. No, it's not that at all. Cause I don't. I like Chris Brown and Usher. I like them both. Like, I think they're super, super dope artists. I think Chris is a quintessential generational talent. I think Usher's longevity is fucking crazy. Like, he looks amazing. Like, I'm not afraid to be like Usher's my age, and like, yeah, I fight niggas to have his physique. Wow. So, you know what I'm saying? What do you think I work out for? You know what I mean? Like, if we're being honest. But in all seriousness, like, it just felt like a shoe, like, yeah, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not being funny, but I'm being funny. I'm not trying to be funny. It's just, I would imagine that if it was like a girl, a woman went to see Cole with a group of dudes. I was the only man in I went with my wife and her sister-in-law, and then or and her sister, my sister-in-law, and then I went with, my former colleague Tiffany and Candace, and all their friends were women, and then, Tiffany's husband was there, shout out Julian, and his husband's friends. So it was like 3 dudes and like 10 girls, 10 women, let me stop. And, I listen, man, I'm comfortable around all that shit. It's not about like, they got their shirts off and they dance. It's not that. It's just like the art, the music, the everything. It's a show for girls and their friends. It's a show for women to experience without men around. You know what I'm saying? And I felt that. Like, I felt that I'm super just in general, I'm super aware of my presence around women. That's something I've just learned as I get older. I'm super aware of being in spaces where it's mostly women. I'm in education, so that's like my everyday life. I'm just super aware of like how much space I take up. I'm super aware of how the room changes when I enter a space, if conversation slows or picks up when I'm around or not around. And I felt like, if I'm being completely honest, that like my wife, my sister-in-law, my friend, like, they weren't able to be as free as they wanted to be with the 3 men there. Even though we weren't, we were vibing, like, it's not like we were in the corner like, "Fuck these niggas." Like, "Look at these niggas' chests and shit." Like, we weren't like that. But, we also were just like, "Cool song, Chris." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were like fanned out. And they, of course, the women, because that's why women go to these shows, they want to yell and scream, they want to, "Oh my God, his chest, his nipples." You know what I'm saying? Like, shit, like, "Look at his abs. He has 6 of them. My husband only has 1.5." But, I'm joking, but I'm serious. Like, I feel like women should have the space to, I don't want to, I'm not like, I'm not trying to make this a think piece, but for this situation, I feel like those ladies would have had a better and more free time if we weren't there. So much so that my wife went to the same concert in a different city. She went to see Chris and Usher with her sister and my sister 2 days, on Saturday this week. They went again to see the show again. And, my wife's like, "Oh, I had a much better time. It was just a better vibe. The concert was just better. Everything was better." And I didn't say this to her. I'm saying this here. This is like my own therapy, but it was better because I wasn't there. And I know that. And I'm comfortable. Like, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? She would never say that. And I know if she ever watches this, so I don't think she watches the show. I know if she heard this, she'll be like, "That's not true. Oh, I love to have you there." Nigga, no, you don't. Like, you want to go and scream over Chris Brown the same way that if Alex Isley came to a show, I don't want my wife to go with me, bro. Even though, like, Alex Isley, she's lovey-dovey, I wanna experience Alex for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, me and Alex have a audio relationship, you know what I'm saying, one-sided. And so if she came to concert, like, I'd wanna go see it twice too. I wanna go see it once with her, with my wife, and I wanna go see it once solo so Alex and I can have our connection. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I really do feel so that's kinda like the vibe of the Chris and Usher show. I feel like it was a good show. Of course, like, Chris and Usher are quintessential entertainers. They're Michael Jackson and 2 people. They've controlled radio waves for 20 years, 30 years, and they demonstrated that at the show, professional, amazing dancing, singing was on point. Both of their mics were on, even though the mics were shitty. And the suite experience was cool. It was a little far back, for suites you're never gonna be up close, but I feel like it would have been a different experience if we had a lower suite, like if we were on the 300 level, if we had a 200 level suite maybe. But still, a suite life is the life, and that's what I'm trying to do for all concerts going forward. But yeah, so that was Chris and Usher. I don't, would I go see them again? Probably not, if I'm being honest. But not because it wasn't a dope show, just because like I'm not the demo, and that's fine. And that, truth be told though, like not being the demo when you go to a show, like you should feel like you're the demo. Like when you go to a show, you should look around and see a bunch of you. And with the aging piece, like that is for me, it's heightened. It's heightened when you go spaces and you're not the demo. So, I wasn't the demo for Chris Brown, and that's fine. That's cool. That's cool. Now, all right, so peep this, right? Boom. Usher show finishes at, you know what I'm saying, 12 midnight. We get back to the crib at, 1 o'clock, let's say. Flight leaves, boom, to New York, you know what I'm saying? Flight leaves, whatever time it leaves, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. So I'm at the airport 6:45, 7:15, because I got clear and pre-check. So I don't wait on no line. I boom, zoom right in, got, boom. Get to New York, no problems, no delays. I landed LGA, landed LaGuardia, you know what I'm saying? Instantly, as soon as I land, my New York accent just goes crazy, you know what I'm saying? My New York accent just, elevates to another level. And I turn, it's like as soon as I land, it's like on some other, you know what I'm saying? Word of my dad. And I land in New York, hop in the Ubs, drive me out to Queens, and I'm home. You know what I'm saying? Like going to New York, like in all seriousness, going to New York City is, again, when you go places, even if you're not as familiar with them, you know when the demo is simpatico with who you are. And just being in New York, getting off the plane, getting in an Uber, getting to the hotel, talking to people along the way, or not, or purposely not talking to people on the way, it just feels like home whenever I go. And I haven't lived in New York in 40 years, damn near. And I was there, of all the places I've been in my life, I was in New York for almost the shortest time. I've been in North Carolina less time. I was in New York for 12, 11 years. You know what I'm saying? My first 11 years. Everywhere else I've lived longer, but it's still home, and it still feels like those are my people. And that's the part that I have a hard time describing to people, because everybody, jokingly, everybody's like, "Oh, you're not from New York, you from here." And I'm like, nigga, no, I am not. There's nowhere that I go that I feel like these are my people. DC, proper DC, has become one of those spaces where I go and feel like these are my people. When I go back to Maryland and DC, I'm like, yeah, these are my people. But similarly, when I go to New York, I feel like, yep, this is where I belong. Just the pacing, the impulse, the movement. You know what I'm saying? When I'm able to talk to somebody and they're as much of in a rush as I am, like, come on, let's go. Chop chop, nigga, let's go. Like that's generally how I operate in a lot of spaces, especially North Carolina. I'm like, let's go. Come on, stop talking. Move. And when I'm in New York, I don't have to do that because everybody's already at that level. Everybody's already like, let's go, nigga. What are you talking about? Stop talking. Um, so it just feels like home. Anyway, get to the hotel, everything's good. I was able to check in early because I was work, check-in's not till 3 o'clock. I got to the hotel like 10, 11 o'clock. So they said my room wouldn't be ready until 1, but I sat in the lobby. As soon as I took my computer out, they were like, "Oh, your room's ready." I was like, "Oh, bad, 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 bad." Now, mind you, I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before because, we were at the show. But I was hyped up, and I'm checking social media. Like, they're like, the first thing I see at noon, as soon as I get into the room at noon, they're like, Rock Nation's Instagram page said, "Get to the show early. You're going to want to be there early." So I was like, bet. I was planning to get there at 7:30. So I said, I'm going to get there at 6:30. Throughout that day, mind you, I'm off 4 hours sleep maybe, but I'm so hyped up. I'm in New York. I've stayed in Queens. I stayed at this hotel in Queens. Really nice hotel. What is it close to? I don't even know what it's close. Close to the airport, like 2, 3 miles from the airport. And I decided to go for a run, so I ran 5 miles. And this is important to the story because I just love running in the city. It was hot as fuck, hot as crazy outside. It was hot, and ran 5 miles, listening to music. I'm listening to whole New York skyline in the background. I'm like, this is life. Pay attention. You know what I mean? And it's just, I'm hearing New York. I'm hearing the sounds. Smells dirty, smells like trash. I'm like, yeah, I'm home. So after I run, literally on the way back, I stop at the bodega, I get a chopped cheese. I'm living life. I get my favorite chips. Y'all know about this. There's the brand called Wise. If y'all from up north, y'all know Wise. They got the garlic and onion chips. Oh my God. I got the Snapple. I was like living my 10-year-old life in Queens that day. Came back, ate. I'm feeling I ran, sweated, showered. I got my outfit out to see home on the bed. I'm eating the chopped cheese. I'm watching the World Cup. I'm like, yo, this is life. And I'm by myself and I'm solo dolo. And I'm looking around, yo. That was like the dopest moment. Like I finished eating, watching World Cup. I'm dozing off. I'm like, all right, it's 4 o'clock. Let me start getting whatever, getting ready. So I'm looking at the Uber. I'm like, should I change it? So I had it come and pick me up at 6:30, but I changed it to pick me up at 6. And it's showing it should take like half an hour. No, I'm lying. I had it come pick me up at 6:30. I changed it to have it come pick me up at 5:30 because I'm looking at traffic, and traffic around the stadium is getting crazy, around Yankee Stadium. So they come pick me up, Uber. I said the Uber comes and picks me up at 5:30. I don't get out of the car, and I had to walk because it was gridlock traffic around the stadium. I get in line at like 6:35. So it took an hour. It should have taken 20 minutes. It took an hour. So, okay, cool. Get in line. As soon as I step out the car, is cough up a lung where I'm from. It's just blasting. It was like a festival. I know they've been saying Hovchella. Like it was like Hovchella. It was like a New York City block party outside in the Bronx in Yankee Stadium. People like the Hispanic folks got the little pork and they chopping it up on the street in a little stand. They selling drinks. It's hot dog stands everywhere. Like I'm like, yo, and the line is already crazy. The line is wrapped around the building, and there's no really like beginning or end to the line. And so, I'm New York, so I'm like super aware of shit, right? Testing people's energy. Yo, the energy was on love times 1,000. It was just love. Everybody. I talk about 98% of the people had on some sort of Yankee gear, had on some sort of Hove gear, New York fashion on 1,000. I saw plenty Tims. I saw jean shorts. I saw big chains. I'm seeing New York energy. It was just like, yo, these are my people. It just felt, oh man, I can't describe it. Not only that, it was like we were all the same age. It was all of us in our 40s and 50s. And it's not like how I was saying, like, as soon as you turn 40 or in your 40s, it was a lot of those, but it was like mid 40s, mid 50s, early 60s people there, like dressed up. You know what I'm saying? Nobody looking old. One of the things about living in North Carolina is that, folks my age don't have a lot of style. Like they don't have a lot of expression style that's full of expression. They wear shirts, they wear shorts. There's no logos on it, no branding on it, no nothing on it. And I always feel like even what I'm wearing now, y'all can't see it. I have on a Brooklyn half marathon shirt and a Yankee hat with the paper plane Yankee hat. And I feel like this is overdressed for this area I'm in. They're like, "Oh, why you dress so fancy?" I'm like, I just literally have on a t-shirt and a hat. But stepping out of New York, everybody was extra tired, bro. Everybody was on some extra fashion shit. Whether it was like mad chains, whether it's, tilted hats, you know what I'm saying? Just swag, but not like swag overdone. Just like everybody was on some I'm cool type shit. I listened to Jay-Z my whole life. You know what I'm saying? I got, I got swagged out. I got some different type of shoes on. I have some different shorts on. They got rips on it. They died. Just whatever it is. It was just full of individual personality, full of individual style and uniqueness. It was just lovely. So by now, all of you have heard the shenanigans that took place at the concert, right? So um, I get there at 6:30. Let me tell you my experience. I get there at 6:30, right? By the time I get inside by 7 o'clock, the line was long, but it was moving. And in the line, everybody, and this is not typical New York shit, but everybody in line was talking to each other, dapping people up. Yo, ho, but randomly, just in the line, for no reason. People playing music off their phone, people driving by playing like in New York. Whatever is hot on the radio, whatever is hot in people's minds, you gonna hear it on the street. People driving by, encore playing, who you don't know is playing. Where I'm from is playing just in cars driving by the street. The cops are out there, they chilling. They look like they're excited to see Ho when they got there. Right when I got in line, 7 o'clock, 6:30 is when the cops came. That's important to the story later on. So I get inside 7 o'clock, boom, I'm looking around. I have no worries in the world. I'm chilling. I'm not rushing. I'm taking my time, looking around. Ooh, what's here? Food, get a drink. I look at the merch store. I didn't have to worry about that because I pre-ordered my merch. I got my merch early. So I went to the show with um, Jay-Z extra inning gear on. I went to the show with Reasonable Doubt 30 shirts on. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, the line was crazy to get merch. Made it up way up to the top to my seat. Now, mind you, I told you I got these tickets late, so they weren't super close, but I had a perfect line to the stage. I was in section 330 in row A, so there was nobody in front of me, plenty of room, direct view of the stage. I didn't even really have to look at the screen like that. I could look at the stage. And I get to my seat like 8 o'clock. It's not even hot outside. The weather was freaking beautiful. Everybody saying Yankee Stadium is so hot, it's so hot. I'm like, all right, I'm prepared. I got my towel ready. I'm like, let's go. Get to my seat around 8:15. Things are moving. I'm full. I ate these most amazing chicken strips from the Nathan stand. I had a drink, this tequila and watermelon drink. It was probably racist now I think about it because they had chicken and watermelon. Wow, Yankee Stadium. 8:15, D Nice comes out to the stage. We lit. D Nice is mixing the most, D Nice. You know what he does. Having the most amazing mix. He's mixing some old whole songs, new joints, hip hop, classic hip hop, R&B. He ends his set with "My Name Is D Nice," which who has ever seen that perform live in Yankee Stadium? Just a true New York moment. He ends at 8:45. Y'all ready to see Hove? Y'all ready to see Jay? Man, thank you, Jay, for better. So we like, yeah, Hove, Hove. It's getting dark. It's so cool outside. The weather is perfect. I'm a little tipsy. I'm full. Like, let's go. 9 o'clock comes around. The show the night before, the Blueprint show started at 9:11. So now I'm like, he's not gonna start this one at 9:11 because he's not gonna do two things twice. 9:30. All right, ho, here we go. 10 o'clock. Oh, okay. Little 10:30. Hmm. All right, nervous Hova at that point. 11 o'clock. All right, fam. What the guan, boy? 11 o'clock. All right. No announcement. About 11:15, we get our first announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a security issue outside. They're not able to let people in. We have thousands of people outside, and we're not starting the show until they get in. It's 11 o'clock. So I'm like, okay, okay. All right. So mind you, whole time I'm thinking about my exit. I'm thinking about, okay, I had an Uber scheduled to pick me up at 11:30, 12 o'clock, which was like half a mile away at the Bronx. It's a parking. It's like a mall. And it's like half a mile away. I was gonna walk through the park, no problem. So I keep on having to extend my Uber. I keep on having to extend my Uber, and to like 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock. 12 o'clock rolls around, nothing. 12:30 rolls around, and whole time we're looking at Instagram and we're starting to see reports, we're starting to see videos from people outside. And something was happening. The police, the, there wasn't enough Yankee Stadium staff. Something happened, and some folks bum rushed the door. These are ticket holders. These aren't people that didn't have tickets. These are ticket holders that were having challenges getting in. They were waiting for a long time. They got sick of it. New York shit, bum rush the door. Then I think cops shut it down after that. The same cops that were outside shut it down at that point and weren't letting people in at all. For a little while, they weren't letting anybody in. And then slowly they started letting people in. Security breach, of course, they didn't want to. There were some people that got in that didn't go through metal detectors, so, abundance out of an abundance of caution, shit just slowed up. 12:30 came around, 12:45. And at this point, I'm fully considering, man, they're going to cancel the show. And I was in such a good space earlier. I was like, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to tell my family I shouldn't come. This is me. In my mind. I'm like, I told them I shouldn't come. Like, it's too much of a hassle to get out here. If this happens, then see, this is why I don't come. So in my mind, I'm like, but I'm still chilling. I'm still like in a good space. I'm not, I'm not blaming. I'm not like dreading either. It's kind of like, oh, well, I guess I'll miss Hove this time. But literally just started preparing my mind for work. I'm like, all right, well, I'll get back to the hotel around 2. I got to fly out tomorrow. Let me start thinking about work. And 1 o'clock, Hove comes out. Home comes out to the Dynasty intro. The theme song for The Sopranos plays in the key of life on my mental piano. Got a strange way of seeing life like Stevie Wonder with beads under the do-rag. Intuition is there even though my vision's impaired, yeah. Knowing I can move from a switch and a spare. In a sharp way of life, niggas, a dock of your sight. Cocaine, codeine sense even ever since I was a teen on the benches. Every time someone something was mentioned, I would turn green. Me being in the trenches, him living adventurous, not worrying about expenditures. I'm braving temperatures below zero. No hero, no father figure. You got a part of the nigga. Cause I'm starving my nigga and the weight loss of the show started. The theme song of The Soprano. I was like, he's starting with the Dynasty intro? Plays in the key of light, yo. And it was up from there. It was up from there. I was seen. Someone saw me in that show. You know what I'm saying? That is what the mirror was showing me at the whole show. That I was where I was supposed to be. I was with people I was supposed to be with. And I was with an artist that respected, that understood, that reflected my journey as a music fan, as someone that's been, digesting their content. Pause. I feel like that's digesting. Whoa. That's been close and listening to this content for more than half my life. So he starts with the Dynasty intro, and then, you know what I'm saying? It's just up from there. You know what I'm saying? It's just up from there. You've seen all the details about the show. You've seen all of the images, the special guests. But yeah, hold on one second. All right, so boom, so peep, so right. Sorry, I had to get into a different environment. So, like I was saying, the whole show, everybody there, putting up a mirror to who I am. I felt welcomed. I felt like this is me. You know what I'm saying? I felt like these are my people. And from an age perspective, I wasn't alone. Even though I went to the concert alone by myself, I wasn't alone. So whole show continues, after the intro, he comes in and explains, apologizes to the crowd, explains what was going on outside. He didn't want to start the show while there were still thousands of people outside, because as soon as they heard that intro, folks would bum rush. If I was outside, I'd be really upset. So respect. And also, what time I got there? I said I got there at 6:30. you know what I had done all day, no sleep, ran 5 hours, ate. I got there, I was tipsy, you know what I'm saying? So it was a long day. It was warm enough that it was still, summertime, but show didn't start until 1 a.m. Mm-hmm. But that's it. I got there at 6:30. Show didn't start till 1 a.m. So I'm doing the math. I know I'm not gonna get back to the hotel till like 4. I had an Uber scheduled to pick me up the next morning at 7 to get to the airport to go to Chicago for work. So I had to transition quick from, okay, this show's not going to happen, to, okay, it's going to happen. And now I have to, sustain myself for a really long time without sleep. But it was all worth it, y'all. Like Hove outdid himself. You've seen all of the takes from the show. You've seen all the clips. Speaking of clips, clips came out with Pharrell, crazy. But what I wanted to say about Jay-Z's show, from just a culture perspective, from a hip hop perspective, is that when we are in the presence of living legends, I think we use certain words very cavalierly, right? Like we say icon, we say legend for a lot of people, we say once in a lifetime, we say GOAT. And when you're in the presence of a GOAT, for real, when you're in the presence of a once in a lifetime talent, a once in a lifetime iconic figure, I think for some folks, especially Black folks, we take it for granted. You know, we are so busy trying to explain their or justify their presence, explain away how they got to where they are. Oh, he's a billionaire. There should be no billionaires. He's not doing enough. He's doing too much. Target, Colin Kaepernick, all this other stuff that have really nothing to do with the music, that have nothing to do or have little to do with the cultural impact of this person. And we write them off. We're ready to throw them away because they made some missteps in business or because they didn't do something that we thought they should do based on our purview, right? So we're taking my situation as a, working an entrepreneur in education with the family and placing it on Jay-Z's, on our perspective of Jay-Z's experience and what he should do. We're placing our values on other people and other, especially celebrities. Throughout the show, I talked about Cole and how, so many times I was just like, wow, watching this. Every song, every transition that Hove did, every move he did on stage, it was like, wow, that's good. That's Hove. That's like, it's really hard to put into words how important Jay-Z is to us, of a certain age, where hip hop was, Hove branched from the golden era of hip hop, from those late 80s, early 90s, hip hop to be what he is today, to be able to fill Yankee Stadium 3 nights in a row, to be able to perform the way he did, to have the physical and mental stamina to perform songs he hasn't performed in 20 years. And for it to mean as much as it did, it was like walking down a audio timeline of your life. It was like a journey line for everybody that was in that space, that knew what they were doing, when that remembered specifically what they were doing when Reasonable Doubt came out, when Blueprint came out, when him and Nas was beefing, when, you know, yeah, all the folks that came on stage. A few of the highlights that so many people have talked about, Beyonce came out, Rihanna came out, Fat Joe and Jadakiss came out, Pharrell came out with the clips, Usher came out, who I just saw the night before, right? Who else? Jeezy, I think I said, Jermaine Dupri came out, Tiana Taylor came out. It was just a homecoming for Jay, coming home and being in New York around his peers. And it was a homecoming for everybody there. It felt like going back to college for homecoming season. You've seen all your friends and it's a party. Like that's what the Jay concert was, the Extra Innings show. Something about the show that I don't think a lot of people have highlighted in their recap. I don't want to do a song by song recap because you've seen that. But pretty much for every song, for every segment of the show, the band and the DJ were remixing every song. So for example, he did Brooklyn's Finest with, with the Biggie, with Biggie. And every Biggie verse, the band and the DJ changed it to a Biggie instrumental. So he's doing Brooklyn Finest. Jigga, bigger, how you figure. Peep the style and the weight, cop sweater's the only can, right? So he's doing his verse, and then Big's verse comes in and he switches it to Hovchella. He's doing it, and then Big is rapping over the Hovchella beat. Then it goes back to the Brooklyn's Finest beat. Jay does his verse. Then when Big's next verse comes on, it's to the Juicy beat. It's to the I can't even think of the other. He used 3 beats: Hovchella, Juicy, and another one I can't remember. But for every song, he did something like that, right? Where they changed, either he did a different verse in the song or they changed the beat to reflect something either in the lyrics of the song or the theme of the song. Another thing he did throughout the show was, I noticed, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, I noticed Jay censoring himself, like censoring, not centering, censoring his lyrics a bit. And I peeped that it was like dad, like he was on dad time. Like, I can't repeat these lyrics. I have a 14-year-old daughter. Like, I can't. So I peeped that energy a couple times. He changed some lyrics up to make it less, misogynistic or less sexual in a way. So that was super dope. It was another aspect of the show that not a lot of people talk about. There were a couple people that were missing for various real reasons from the lineup where it was obvious that they were missing. And the biggest time where we all felt that, where I felt the crowd felt that, was the absence of Kanye West, right? The absence of Kanye really reflects a couple things. A lot of the things that Bossy and I talk about is the impact of mental health in real life, right? Like we know Kanye has said some wild things. We know that Kanye has said some wild things about Jay's kids. Unforgivable. I'm not saying that he should have been there, but it was very glaringly obvious that Kanye should have been there, and it would have been an even more iconic performance if Kanye was there. Kanye within his own right has an orbit around him, right? Where, he's the center and things revolve around Kanye. We've seen his world show, the show with the world, with the earth on the stage. He's on the smoke and all lights on it. So him being in that space with Jay-Z, if he was there, it just would have been, it probably would have been too much for TV. It would have been like too much for the mortal mind to process at one time. But they went into Church in the Wild, no Church in the Wild. Being to a God, what's a God to a king? What's a king to a God? What's a God to a non-believer? So they played that part. Swiss came out, forgot. They played that part. And somebody on the microphone came out singing that. What's it mean to a God? So everybody knew it wasn't going to be Frank Ocean. Like that wouldn't have added to the show. But for 2 seconds, the crowd thought it was Kanye. You see an image come out the back, and it was Dream, right? It was Dream. Exciting, dope, all the same. Uh, but the way the crowd erupted, like you could tell they weren't erupting for Dream, my nigga. Like that, they weren't like, "Yay, Dream!" You know what I'm saying? People thought it was Kanye, for sure. People thought it was Kanye. So that was a point where it's like, dang, like it would be dope if Kanye, could have been there. Somebody else who was glaringly missing, I think, was Dame. Just if you think about, the 3 shows, the Yankee show, The Reason Without the Blueprint and the Extra Innings, it was glaringly obvious that Dame wasn't there. We all know Dame's been wild in the past few years when it comes to talking about Jay and saying some pretty disrespectful things to him. So it wasn't as glaring as Kanye not being there, but it was just like, dang, like this monumental experience for Jay, this homecoming, there's a big piece of this puzzle that had no that had no impact on the show, which was like, dang, like no Dame. Like for those of us again who, were The Rock and Rockefeller, the idea of Rockefeller was so prominent, like was so like everybody knows that Jay-Z had so many trends that impacted hip hop culture in the 90s and 2000s from, what he wore, how he spoke, his slang, the changing and wearing jerseys from wearing jerseys in the club to wearing like button ups with cufflinks. Like we did that because Jay said, because Jay said so. Jay said change clothes and go. And we did. You know what I'm saying? So that cultural impact that Jay-Z had was on full display in this show. I mean, I left that show feeling I just witnessed history. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that is, we don't have those kind of experiences all the time, especially a concert goer of my age. Like, I've seen it all. I've been there. You know what I'm saying? I've seen Jay-Z a bunch of times, and you know, seeing Jay in that in Yankee Stadium with these iconic figures that came out with him and him being able to man the stage and command the audience and be at one with everyone in there, even though people have been there for 6, 7 hours at that point, even though folks were tired, even though the show didn't start until 1 a.m. It's kind of like to maneuver through all that as an artist and for folks to be as happy as they were and to be as connected as they were to his lyrics, to his music, to everything was just profound. And I don't think there was also something about the show where as you're watching it, as I was watching it, I couldn't help but think of, man, like this is it. This is it. Like this is the Jay-Z's not going to be able to do another show like this. Not just because of his age, but it's like, why would you replicate this? Like, why would you? There's no other venue where it would mean as much and be as good of a show. You know what I'm saying? Like, could he go to Yankee Stadium? I mean, go to Giant Stadium, Metro Life. What is it called? MetLife Stadium. Could he go to MetLife and sell it out 3 nights in a row? Yeah, he could. But, he did that at Yankee Stadium. There was something final about watching that show. There was something final about being the last night of this 3 night a marathon concert series that it's like, I'm watching history and it's not hyperbole. It's not hyperbolic. Like this is historic what I'm watching. So it was this balance of, I try to keep my phone away at concerts. I don't like to take long videos, but I found myself taking videos of the first like 20 or 30 seconds of every song just to commemorate, I still was able to fully engage with the show, but I felt like, man, this is it. Jay's not going to bring these people out again. Jay's not going to, he's not going to be able to come back and put this kind of show together. There's no other anniversaries. There's no other 30 years of Reasonable Doubt, 25 years of Blueprint. He could do a 20-year anniversary of Kingdom Come. Okay. I mean, he could do a 15-year anniversary of 444 when that happened. But phenomenal show. And then for me, in terms of my bad, I got a phone call. In terms of how I managed those 3 days personally, it was a lot. I'm not gonna lie. My ass approaching 50 felt it, as I'm walking around Chicago limping because I'd been standing for 8 hours and ran 5 miles that day. Got to Chicago, I ran 4 miles to my first day in Chicago too, just, stay in shape or whatever. But it was appropriately tiring. It was a lot of my body. I'm not tripping about getting older. I'm not one of those people like, oh, I'm getting older. Oh no. But as I'm getting older, I'm very much aware of how my age impacts or how my age is received in different environments or my perceived age again, like how old people think I am. And I brought that up earlier but I got to, what was I saying about my age? Oh, yeah. So when I got to the J show, right, I was in my section where I was sitting. I ended up sitting with the 35-year-old version, 37-year-old version of myself. Homeboy, my new best friend. You know what I'm saying? As an older man, we don't make friends real easily, especially being a New Yorker living in North Carolina. Like, there's not a lot of simpatico options and times where I feel simpatico with others around me. But homeboy came and was sitting right next to me. And initially I was like, oh, I thought I was going to have a little area to myself. But Hakeem came, you know, immediately just our energies in line. It was like we was dabbing each other up. Like, he was a younger Hove stan, like a younger Hove supporter. And so, like, generationally, I was an adult for all of Hove's career. He was a child at the beginning of Hove's career. So, like, some of those deep cuts he wasn't as, like, connected to. But for example, I don't know the whole verse to Jay-Z's song with Young Jeezy. The one who's like, I was in doing real shit, and like that verse. But like Hakeem, my new best friend, he was like in that joint, right? But in terms of a perception of age, like, I'm sitting there and, I'm kind of dressed like this. I have my hat on, my locks out. He had locks too, twisted just like mine. I think he was a younger version of me. It was like looking in the mirror at my younger self. And, just chatting while we were waiting for 6 hours for Jay to come out. And, he was asking me, where you from? I told him, I'm from Brooklyn, originally, but I stayed there. I gave him the full story. He was like, yeah, everybody say they from Brooklyn. Everybody say from. I was like, no, I'm from Brooklyn. And, come to find out that the area I grew up in Flatbush, like Vanderveer, he, as an adult, went to that area looking for a house or looking for a place to live. And we were talking about like how Brooklyn's been gentrified. And I was like, before I told him where I was from, I was like, yeah, Brooklyn's gentrified except for where I grew up. Like, I'm the, one area in Brooklyn, one of a few areas that hasn't changed over yet. He's like, where are you from? I was like, yeah, Flatbush Avenue, like Brooklyn Avenue, Avenue D, Nostrand. He was like, I was looking for a house out there. He was like, it was the brick out there. Like, he was like, it was still look like 1982 out there. I was like, I'm telling you. And so the whole time I'm telling him, like, man, I would love to come back to New York, but I was like, my kids are grown now. And I was like, my wife, she couldn't do New York. He was like, how old are your kids? And I was like, yeah, my son is 20s in college. He was like, whoa, 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 hold on, son, hold on. It's like, how old are you? So I have a son in college. He's like, where your son go to college? Like, he's at Catholic in DC. He's like, yo, I went to Howard. And I was like, oh, snap, crazy. Oh, DC connection. Oh, so we vibing off that. And then he's like, yo, you got a 20-year-old? How old are you? And I was like, I'm 49. He was like, hold the fuck. He was like, hold up, son. He was like, time out. He's like, you're 49? And I was like, yeah. What's going on? He was like, son, we look the same age. And I was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So the whole night in our section, right? Me and Hakeem were the stars of our section because every whole song we lit, like, Hakeem was like, yo, this nigga's 50. He's 50. Yo, this nigga's 50. So it was just like, it was one of those moments where I'm super aware of my age. I'm never embarrassed by my age, but him highlighting it in like direct comparison to like his age and where he was and just like our perceived, we look the same, like we dressed the same. Like, it was just really, really fascinating. And I find myself in so many of those kinds of conversations. And I feel like this is something Bossy and I will have to talk about like our age is one thing. When people hear our age, they have preconceived notions about who we are, what we know, what we can do, so on and so forth. But when our perceived age is not our actual age, like if you're younger and people think you're older, they treat you a certain way. But if you're older and people think you're younger, they interact with you a certain way too. And so I'm aware of that now because I think in general, overall, most people think I'm younger than I am. And I just wonder, like, what kind of opportunities are presented to me based on how old people think I am? What kind of opportunities do I not have access to based on how old people think I am? That is the ultimate reflection of all three of the shows. Is like, what does my presence at these shows mean for the people that are around me, about like my presence in these shows, and what changes as a result of, how people perceive me. I don't generally change my actions based on what I think others perceive of me, but I find myself being more aware of them and being more cognizant of, like, I'm the old guy in the room. I don't care. Like, I'm a still show up, but how my other people are other people gonna like provide me with a little bit more reverence if they think I'm older than I am, or if they think I'm younger than I am, are they going to do shit that I don't want to be around? They're going to be wilding out like, your energy is a little bit too high, young buck. You know what I'm saying? So, man, that is the reflection of the Jay show, the J. Cole show, and Chris and Breezy, Chris and Usher. And 3 days of just gallivanting around these cities and being and taking everything in as a lover of music, a lover of live music. So that's all. I just wanted to share that. This will be an evergreen message. I put this out sometime this week or next week. But thanks y'all for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Again, if you like what you hear, what you see, share it, let folks know. Bossy and I really have something different over here, and we want to let everybody be aware of the idea of podcast. So, uh, my outro goes like this. I can't remember it right now, but yeah, peace. Have a good one. Y'all have a great day. Peace out.